deep in the heart of Central Texas, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast. Brought to you by Texas Fish and Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your humble host, Dustin Warncke, the outdoor success guy, back with another podcast. So excited that you are joining us, whether you are streaming this online or downloading it on your personal mobile device or streaming it on YouTube or however you are listening. Thank you guys so much for doing so. You guys mean the world to me as listeners. Just each and every one of you, thank you so much for telling a friend about the show, for subscribing to the show, as well as for just spreading the Texas Outdoor Nation world about the Best of the Outdoors podcast. Man, I appreciate you guys. It is an honor for me to sit in front of this computer and talk into this microphone every couple of weeks. I just enjoy this show so much, guys. This is cathartic or therapeutic for me to be able to deliver this. I always love to create content. I believe that we are, inspired by God to create, to be creators of things. And this podcast is one of those creations that is my gift to you. And I hope you get a lot out of it, a lot of value out of it. And what we do together in the Texas Outdoor Nation, Texas and beyond. I know a lot of you guys listen outside of Texas, the Philippines, UK, London, England, all over the world as this show gets listened to. So, I just thank you guys so much for watching, reading, and listening. Even though a vast majority of our listeners are in Texas, thank you for listening outside of the states. And just thank you guys so much for tuning in. So I'm really excited about today's sponsor. I'm really excited about a new announcement that I have to make. And then I'm excited about the topic because we are rolling solo with your buddy Dustin here on this show. And it is late at night when I'm recording this, so if I sound a little loopy, I do my best thinking at night, believe it or not. So if I sound a little bit crazy, it's not because I've been drinking or anything like that. It's because I'm just tired, and you guys can listen to my SHOT Show podcast and know that, when I get a little loopy, I get a little winded when it comes to some of the thoughts that I have going on in my head. But I usually do my best kind of thinking it late at night, so this is why I wanted to record this podcast then. Wanted to give a shout out to a couple of sponsors for this podcast, Timney Triggers and AccuSharp. And I also am going to talk about Hill Country Bowhunters and LSBA, Lone Star Bowhunters Association, two organizations that I do a lot of work with in the outdoors, and work on their websites and do some of their promotions and those kind of things. And they're both great nonprofit groups as well. So before we get too far in this, today's episode is going to be covering exactly what it's titled, Axis and Aoudad, two of the most famous Texas exotics, and how to bow hunt for them with a crossbow or a compound bow. A lot of you guys I know bow hunt that listen to this show or that shoot competitive 3D archery. Some of you guys are new. If you've not done so already, please subscribe to the podcast. It is free. It comes out every 2 weeks. I have a show on fishing and hunting. The last two shows I did were fishing shows. But and then I've got Houston Fishing Show coverage and stuff that I'm planning on doing. That's before this podcast aired. That I'm recording this. That I'm going to do the Houston Fishing Show. So I don't know what's going to be on tap for that. But a lot of great opportunities. And so just subscribe to the show. You get a new show every couple of weeks. We talk about freshwater, saltwater. We talk about hunting. We talk about just general outdoor stuff. I do product reviews. I do all kinds of different stuff on here, and I just have a great time, man. This is just therapeutic for me, cathartic for me to do this show and just kind of express this outdoor lifestyle. What we all enjoy about the outdoors, the essence of what makes us outdoorsmen and what makes us go and catch things and shoot things and hunt for things. And it's the thing that really makes us, to hunt is human, in a way. And so I wanted to definitely just thank you for sharing that with me. That means the world to me. Dustin Warncke here has been appointed the associate publisher for Texas Fish and Game. So your host here is very, very excited about that. It won't change my role in this podcast at all. I'm still going to be delivering this content. It's just kind of a culmination of all the different things I do for the magazine. And that for Texas Fish and Game, if you've not subscribed already to our magazine, it's fantastic. It's got a digital edition at fishgame.com. We've got a blog at fishgame.com you can check out. And then we also have 3 newsletters, which I talk about traditionally at the end of every show. We have the Tactical and Practical Tuesday, the Wildlife Wednesday, and the Thursday Texas State of the Outdoor Nation. Those are all 3 available all week long, Tuesday through Thursday. And then we have special email blasts that we do as well. And those email blasts basically go out to our whole list of about 60,000 people, same list as the newsletter. And they're just different product offers and things like that people buy sponsorships for. And that's kind of what pays the bills around here. Same deal, what pays the bills for the magazine. So is advertising. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into that. And I'll talk about our sponsors here real quick. But before I do that, I just wanted to tell you guys, I really appreciate you guys listening. Being an associate publisher is just kind of a culmination of all that I do for the, I sell advertising. I also write the hotspots. I edit reports from all the different fishing guides that send me hotspot reports in for most of the freshwater lakes in Texas, or most of the ones that we report on in Texas. I do most of those reports. You can see my name in the magazine there. I write a few features every year. I've got one coming out here pretty soon in April about bow fishing for buffalo. So any of you bow hunters that are listening to this, that'll be a good one to check out, and I'll do a special video for the April issue about gearing up for bow fishing, and then probably a podcast coming up here pretty soon about bow fishing as well. So I haven't done a bow fishing podcast in a while, so it's been a while since I talked to my buddy Marty McIntyre. Anyway, before we get too far off into the weeds with this project here, we're going to talk about a couple of sponsors. AccuSharp, our first one up today, and that's going to be a question of when was the last time you sharpened your knives. Sharpening your blade with an AccuSharp is actually very easy. The AccuSharp is a double beveled knife sharpener pre-angled to your blade. All you need to do is run your AccuSharp through your blade to get it back to sharp. That's it. AccuSharp products can be found at any Academy Sports and Outdoors, or search your location near you at AccuSharp.com. That's AccuSharp.com. Now, guys, I have sharpened a lot of knives with a lot of different products. AccuSharp was the first sharpener I ever used, okay? And I didn't start hunting and fishing and doing all this stuff kind of professionally until I was in my mid to late 20s. And then in media, I'm almost 40 now, so I've been doing this for a while. But my dad in the early 2000s gave me my first AccuSharp sharpener, and they still sell the same one today. It's blue and white. It's got a white body and a blue handle, and it's the AccuSharp fillet knife sharpener. They also make a broadhead sharpener for you bow hunters that are listening. They make a blaze orange sharpener so you don't lose it in the woods. They make knives. They make diamond paddle sharpeners. They make kitchen sharpeners. I mean, they make all kinds of different stuff. The cool thing that they're coming out with here now is the AccuSharp game processing kit. This is a little case that comes in. It's got a saw. It's got 3 different types of knives. It's got a place you can put your zip ties. It's got a kind of a rib spreader. It's got an AccuSharp sharpener so you can sharpen your knives. It's got a really great little feel to it. I've seen one of these in person, and they're going to start selling these in stores here pretty soon if they haven't already. They're supposed to come out this month from what I understood, and they're really, really cool. It's a cool little kit, game processing kit. I know there are a lot of manufacturers that make game processing kits out there, but this one really caught my eye. They've really thought this thing through, and the design and the manufacturer and how everything's laid out in it and everything like that. So you definitely check that out, AccuSharp.com, or visit your local Academy Sports and Outdoors. They also have these compact pull-through sharpeners, and then the Sharp and Easy Blaze Orange and Sharp and Easy Blaze Orange two-step sharpeners that they've got. They basically have a carbide side and then a ceramic side. So you basically can do the rough edge, sharpening of your knife, and then the finer finishing edge on your knife with the ceramic. So yeah, some really high quality products there. I can't say enough about these guys. Got knives, got sharpeners, got all kinds of different outdoor products for you to enjoy the outdoors, no matter if you bow hunt or if you gun hunt. Everybody needs knives in the outdoors, man. So AccuSharp.com, that's AccuSharp.com. Check them out or Google them at search engine near you. AccuSharp.com's got some great stuff for the outdoors, must have for your outdoor adventure. Just click the link I put in the show notes as well. You can do that. Other sponsor for this episode is Timney Triggers. I'm doing a special bonus podcast sponsorship for them because they're such an awesome company. They're running a little schedule with us right now, and they had a hunt giveaway that we did in the last show, and the last show that they sponsored. And then I just wanted to give a shout out this show to check out Timney Triggers, Timney USA. Got some great triggers. I just told the story on the last podcast that was a hunting related podcast where I talked about them last. Was my 270 Mauser, 270 Winchester Mauser rifle, and got a new Timney trigger. That thing shoots like a jewel now, man. It is a tack driver at 100 yards and beyond with that new Timney trigger. Made all the difference in the world from turning that rifle into a good hunting rifle into a great hunting rifle. So check out timneytriggers.com. That's timneytriggers.com. If you are looking and thinking about doing a trigger job on your gun, check out a replacement trigger. I mean, these things are really relatively inexpensive. If you look at how much it costs to take to a gunsmith and have them to do a trigger job, it's just easier a lot of times to do it by yourself, and it's not that hard. I mean, if a guy like me can do it, and I'm not a gunsmith, these are just drop-in triggers for your AR-15, your Mosin Nagant, your Mossberg, your Mauser, your Winchester, your Remington, any of these, okay? They just have a fantastic feel to them, the way that they're built, the way that the quality control, the way they're machined. I mean, it's just some great stuff. So check out Timney Triggers, timneytriggers.com, and you can also check our website out and our Facebook page for some Timney Trigger posts that we're going to be doing, the Texas Fishing Game Magazine Facebook page, and elsewhere. We're going to be doing some different coverage for Timney Triggers and hopefully work with them for a long time. So I wanted to give them another shout out on this podcast, even though it's a bow hunting podcast. I did two hunting sponsors on the last fishing show, so I figured I'd do some gun stuff on a bow hunting podcast. But anyway, long story short, there you go. So Timney Triggers and our friends at AccuSharp. All right, the other thing I wanted to mention, as I always try to mention on this podcast, is some things that might be of interest to you in the outdoors, and that one of those things is the awesome thing that's coming up with the Hill Country Bow Hunters. It's a HCB Fun Shoot Weekend, which is the weekend of March 23rd and 24th. That's coming up shortly after this podcast airs. Walk-up registration, I should say, is 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. hillcountrybowhunters.com. That's hillcountrybowhunters.com. You can find them on Facebook as well. I'm an officer at that organization, and the Fun Shoot is just a great time. We meant to have the Fun Shoot in September, like we normally do traditionally, but it got rained out this last year because all the rain that we got in the late summer. So basically, the Fun Shoot is going to be a 3D tournament. It's going to have concessions, used equipment, garage sale, auction, all that stuff. Barbecue plate lunch, just silent auction. It's going to be a lot of fun. Archery games, all kinds of stuff. So if you've never been to one of these, they're in Central Texas in Seward Junction, just north of where this podcast broadcast. And they're in Liberty Hill, technically, but Seward Junction's the junction between 183 and 29. It's just north, like I said, of where I live and broadcast this show. And I just love these guys, man. A lot of the money, or most of the proceeds, actually all the proceeds from this annual Fun Shoot are used to support youth, the youth hunt program that HCB does. The youth members all volunteer during the season, the 3D season. The off season of bow season is when this happens. All season long to earn an amazing hunting trip at the end of the year. Ask how your kids can get involved at hillcountrybowhunters.com. That's hillcountrybowhunters.com. If you have any questions about this particular event, email hillcountrybowhunters@yahoo.com. That's hillcountrybowhunters@yahoo.com. And I'd love to see you out there. I plan to be there at the Fun Shoot weekend. Like I said, it's the weekend of the 23rd and 24th of March 2019. It's really relatively easy to find. You'll see signs that weekend guiding you off of 183 onto the county road 258 that this is on. It's a nice property. I've been part of the HCB, geez, I guess it's been since I got into bow hunting, which has been the middle 2000s. So I really got involved with them kind of the mid to late 2000s. I was their youth hunt program director in 2015, I think in 2014 as well. I did it for 2 years, and then I'm back as an officer doing their special events on their board again, so that's kind of cool. The other place I hold a board position is Lone Star Bowhunters Association. They're another fine place to go check out. I don't have any special events for them right off the top of my head besides their banquet that they're having, but they are an awesome one to check out at LoneStarBowhunter.com. That's LoneStarBowhunter.com. Two archery organizations that are really worth your time to check out. Both of them have memberships you can get if you live in Central Texas. You can come to the bow shoots that Lone Star Bowhunters have. I'm sorry, that Hill Country Bowhunters have. It's getting late here, sorry. And then Lone Star Bowhunters are thinking of bringing their banquet to Central Texas this year. I'm working on that right now. And they also have Lone Star Bowhunters also has the Texas Bowhunting and Bowfishing records that you can check out for the state records for bowhunting and bowfishing. So anyway, two fine organizations there, HCB, Hill Country Bowhunters, and Lone Star Bowhunters Association. If you've not done so, check out the Hill Country Bowhunters Fun Shoot because it is a blast. And actually, the way it's going to work, just to go back to HCB real quick, 3D tournament is going to be on Saturday of the 23rd of Saturday. It's Saturday, March 23rd. 3D tournament, concessions, used equipment, garage sale, auction preview, and then Sunday the 24th is going to be the 3D fun shoot, barbecue plate lunch, garage sale, silent auction, raffle, and archery games. Really a family event. Bring your whole family. I mean, everybody has fun. They've done some covered areas now too, kind of pavilions, so you can hang out with your family in the shade, especially as it gets hotter in the summer months. Just a fantastic organization, both of these guys. If you've not joined the LSBA, if you're a bow hunter, or Hill Country Bowhunters, great time, especially if you live here in Central Texas, because I know you guys do. A lot of you guys do live in my area here in Central Texas, and this is just a great place. So, that all being said, let's jump into the contents of the show now that we've been talking forever about sponsors and events and stuff like that. But really, this podcast is more, I was going to have a guest on this show, and the thing is that you may not know about your humble host, Dustin von Warncke, is that and I've talked about this in the show, so it's not like I've never talked about this before, but one of the things that I do on one of my side hustles, if you will, is I live sell exotics. I buy, sell, and trade exotic hoof stock for ranches, and one of the websites that I run for Double B Exotics is stockmyranch.com or stockyourranch.com. Both of them will get you to Double B Exotics. That's the other thing that I do aside from selling advertising and writing content and doing this podcast, among building websites and all the other bunch of things that I do in the outdoors. But basically, I kind of thought, well, I'm going to roll solo on this show. Don't really need a guest because I know a lot about Axis. I know a lot about Aoudad. I know a lot about bow hunting. I'm not going to call myself an expert in any of this stuff, but I deal with it every day. All right. And I deal with the outdoor subjects and stuff like that every day that I'm working on. And I just love to have the opportunity to share that with you because the Axis and the Aoudad are two of the most prolific animals in the Lone Star State when it comes to exotics. They reproduce like kittens and rabbits, or whatever you want to say there. They reproduce quickly. They thrive in our climate in Texas because you got the Aoudad that are originally from North Africa. There's more of them in Texas, just like in Axis. More of them in Texas than there are in India for Axis. There's more Aoudad in Texas than there are in North Africa, where they were brought over. And interesting, the way that they both came to Texas. The Axis came in 1930s, I believe it was, in Kerrville, and I'm not sure exactly what ranch it was, but I want to say it may have been the YO. I'm not sure though, so don't quote me on that. But 1930s, the Axis were introduced to a high fence ranch in that neck of the woods in Kerrville. From what I've read, and this is just from what I understand, and basically the fences couldn't hold them. They got out, they reproduced. They're all over Texas. There are thousands and thousands of Axis guys. I can tell you that because just the little dealings that I've done where I've just, right now I'm working on a trailer load, a $14,000 trailer load of Axis deer. That's just one number that I deal with, and that's just one. That's, I think, 18 head of Axis deer, and that's just what we do basically in live sale is we basically get the Axis from one ranch and then broker them to another ranch that wants them on their high fence, and we typically catch them with Double B Exotics. We catch them in the low fence. A lot of times they've never even seen a fence is our joke with the Axis deer. They've never even seen a fence, so we catch them in live traps, corral traps, and that are tarped, and basically put them on a trailer and take them to a barn. Put them in the barn for a little while. They don't stay there but for a couple of days, and then we usually find a home for them in a high fence ranch somewhere in Texas. So that's basically the way buying, selling, and trading exotics is done. The thing is, it's all done on the underground. A lot of times it's all done on Facebook groups, believe it or not, because none of the ranches that want your hunting dollars want you to know where they got the animal from. So it's all kind of done in these secret Facebook groups that I'm a part of, quite a few of them. And that's basically just the basics of how live sale works. Prolific, and when I say prolific, I just mean numerous and very, very adaptable creatures. These axis and aoudad are. Now, so are fallow deers. Fallow deer have shot up through the roof here the last few years, I guess now, because there's fewer of them to go around. Axis are so plentiful. I mean, you can hunt for one of these guys. An axis doe is about $400 on the ranch that I work with, DB Hunting Ranch. I'm not saying you have to go hunt there. I'm just saying that's how much they sell them for. An axis buck that's about 28 inches, which is considered an axis deer. An axis buck that's a trophy, or semi-trophy, I guess, a shooter, if you will. 26, 28 inches or 28 to 30 inches, no matter, depending on what your mileage may vary. That basically is a deer that's a quality shooter, 28 to 30 inches, considered a trophy. Looking at about, $1,700 to $1,900 at the ranch that I work with. But you can pay up to $2,250, in a lot of ranches, and even more, $2,500 and whatnot if it's an all-inclusive, includes, lodging and meals and stuff like that. I'm just talking about the basic hunt. Aoudad, basically, you can shoot a ewe for $350 most ranches, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. And the ewes aren't worth much. The females is the ewes, and then the rams, typically 28 inches on up is basically a trophy one, and I think they can grow up to like 34 inches. Those are really hosses of aoudad, and their horns come out and down. You can obviously Google what an aoudad looks like or an axis looks like if you need to. I don't need to show you pictures, but I've got some pictures if I need to show them on my show notes. But basically the aoudad and ram is going to run you around $2,000 or a little bit more to hunt a ram, because they're live sold for 30 inches or more. We're talking $2,500 to $3,000 pretty easily. So you can just tack on the extra of what a ranch would buy it and then resell it to you as a hunt. Then you pretty much figure out your what your mileage would vary on that, depending if you need lodging and food and all that other stuff with your amenities. Now I'm going to tell you guys this, and this is just me talking. Be careful with who you book with, okay? I'm not saying the ranches I work for and the lifestyle stuff that I do is the best there ever was, but I am here to tell you that one of the things that I would like for you to consider is don't just Google hunting ranches in Texas and think that they're all reputable, because there's one particular one, and I'm going to talk real briefly about this. One particular one I mentioned on this podcast before in past episodes I've done with some of these guys. Look and ask lots of questions, all right, and look well for your ranch. If you find one on Facebook, if you find one that's promoting a hunt on Facebook, a hunt specials, which I advertise for DB Hunting Ranch all the time, that's cool, all right, that's cool, but ask some good questions. And I have an article in a podcast that you can go back and search for, top 10 things to look for in your next outfitter or guide. You can just type in top 10 things outfitter or top 10 things guide at fishgame.com. You'll come up with the podcast and the post that I wrote, the long blog post about all 10 things. And basically those are free. You can look those up, and the podcast is about an hour long. It's me jabbering on this podcast microphone like I was back then. That was from 2016, but anyway, the information that's in there is very, very good. Cindy Delana, one of the gals that works for us, was looking at doing a guided hog hunt in Texas a while back, and I told her to go look up that article. I sent her the link. I might even put the link in the show notes now I'm thinking about it, but sent her the link to go check that out. I'd like for you guys to do your homework. It's so vitally important. Ask good questions. All right. And the main reason why I say that is because there's a ranch, and I'll just talk briefly about this like I said I would. There's a ranch out of, I'm not going to even say where it is, but basically it's a ranch that exists on Google. If you just type in Texas hog hunting in Google, you'll find this ranch real quick in the ads. And they basically make this whole sales pitch that you can come shoot all these hogs and bring all these people, and if you book 5 people, you can hunt for free and all this other stuff. And there's more than one ranch, but there's one in particular that I'm thinking of. And basically they charge you by the pound on the hoof to butcher a hog. All right, and hogs get pretty heavy. We're talking like $2 a pound for a live weight, not live weight, but dead weight, I guess is what I'm saying, on the hoof with the guts and everything in it per pound for you to, and you can't touch the hog, you can't field dress it yourself, you can't, they weigh the hog and charge you based on the live weight or the dead weight. And that's just highway robbery, because a man should be able to field dress his own animal, even if it's a fully guided hunt. You shouldn't have to have, unless it's included in the package, you shouldn't have to pay somebody to field dress and quarter your animal. I've never believed in that. And I really want to make it home that, that those people scam people out of their money every day. And by the time the news gets around to it, they're on to the next customer that comes from out of Texas or elsewhere and thinks they got a good deal, and they're really getting screwed. And I hate to see people get shafted like that out in the outdoor industry. It makes all of us that do this for media, it makes all of us that do this for hunting ranches and the marketing and the sales and all that stuff, it makes us all look shady. It's not a good deal at all. So I'm very, very passionate about that topic, because I think everybody should leave a ranch hunting experience or hunting ranch experience with positive things to say, with a good memory. All right. Especially if you're there with your family, especially if you're there with your friends. All right. That's what the outdoors is all about, is sharing those different formidable experiences, no matter how old or young you are, is sharing those experiences and having that time with your friends and family in the outdoors. That's what it's all about. And when somebody comes and fleeces you and takes all your money because you're not paying attention and asking good questions, that is where I draw the line, guys. So that's just what I'm saying here. I could get on this podcast and talk, ad nauseum about this subject, but basically I'm just saying, beware. Ask good questions. Read that article. Listen to that podcast. Go back, and it's 2016 that I recorded all that, and just check it out and just see what you want to do when it comes to booking with one of these ranches. But there are great ranches out there that I recommend. They're great outfitters and guides that I recommend that are just fantastic people that if you have any questions, you can always call me directly or email me. I'm not hard to find. DustinsProjects.com. That's DustinsProjects.com is my website. You can pull me up and give me a call, send me an email right directly to my email address, or call me right directly on my phone. It's all on there. And I'll help you. I mean, I'll at least guide you in the right direction, because I've seen a lot of people get screwed in this business, and a lot of people fleece and take the money. Now, any business you're going to have in the outdoors or elsewhere is going to have shysters. It's going to have people that are going to screw you out of your money, but it's going to have plenty of outfitters and guides and people that are here to help you and here to make sure you have a pleasant hunting experience, and that's what you're always after. So I kind of walked into the basics of each animal. Barbary sheep, I didn't cover this yet, but basically Barbary sheep, or Aoudad, came from after post-World War II is when they came over, and they were started also in Kerr County, Kerrville area, and Llano counties. They were started under high fences as well, but they broke out of the fences, and they roam wild, especially out in West Texas. It is wild and crazy out there. There are herds of Aoudad that I've heard about that are 100 to 120 to 150 large. They're very, very, very adaptable animals. They're very hardy animals. They love to get up into the mountain ranges. That's why they do so well in some of the rocky or hill country areas and that kind of stuff. They do well out in West Texas. They're free-ranging groups all over West Texas. I've got a guy that's looking to trap some, because I've got orders to fill for Aoudad in the live sale business that I do. And it's just crazy. And so obviously the larger the animal on an axis or an Aoudad, the more horn that animal has, or antler in the case of the axis. We say in live sale, we say everything's a horn, but Chester's corrected me before that I should not say horn when it comes to an antlered species such as the axis, which loses its horns. And basically, here's the other thing about axis that I haven't told you guys. They lose their horns and gain their horns based on their birthday. So you have two different types of bucks. You've got bucks that are coming into season right now that are growing, that are in velvet, just like a deer. They grow their antlers in velvet. Well, they are a deer, but just like any other types of deer, they grow their velvet, they shed their velvet, and they have hardhorn. So you have velvet and hardhorn. Now, it's nothing to shoot a velvet. You can still get that mounted. That's not a big deal at all. You get a pretty shoulder mount, but you can preserve and freeze dry, and they have some preservation techniques for preserving that velvet. But basically, it's that's just kind of the way that it works. You've got the opportunities with With an Aoudad and with an Axis, you've got hard hunts, or it can be, just depending on where they come from and what ranch they're off of, you've got kind of challenging hunts. If you really want to challenge, hunt an Axis at some place, that's free range. And the ranches that claim that they have, the best free-ranging populations out of in the state, or really even in the world. One of those ranches is Joshua Creek Ranch, which is a ranch I've done a lot of clay shooting at, sporting clays. I've not actually done any hunting experiences there, but the guy Kevin Welburn and I know each other real well, and he claims that they have the best free-ranging population of axis, and he says it's a satisfying hunt. They've taken several of them off every year. They continue to mate like rabbits and kittens, and they just get more axis there every time. If you had any idea how many axis there were, they're like the feral hogs of the exotics, and Aoudad are kind of the same way. And I don't mean that bad, because their meat is so good and so tasty, and that's the other thing about Aoudad meat, is a lot more tasty than just regular generic sheep meat. But in the exotic world, I mean, those two are probably the hardiest, most prolific animals that there are. So basically, a ranch like Joshua Creek has free-ranging populations. You're going to pay a little bit more for a hunt like that, because you've got accommodations and all kinds of different things there that come as a package part of that hunt. The Joshua Creek Ranch you can look up real easily. If you go someplace like DB Hunting Ranch, you've got, kind of basic accommodations, and you've got a nice, a nice hill country hunt. It's not the hardest hunt in the world. It's spot and stalk, typically. Here's the thing to look for in an exotic hunt, period, is that it needs to be spot and stalk or a stand hunt, okay? Make sure you're shooting the right animal. You can hunt from a stand, but you make sure you're shooting the right animal. And then or what I prefer for exotics and the ranches that I work with some other outfitters as well, is spot and stalk hunts with a guaranteed shot opportunity. All right, I've talked about this in this podcast before. The spot and stalk hunts, so basically finding the animal and stalking up on them, getting a good pair of monopod or a good pair of shooting sticks or a bipod or tripod out there to rest your gun on standing, and or get down on your knees or get down on the ground and shoot prone, but get a good steady rest and make a good shot. All right, so it sounds relatively simple, but if you're hunting the country out there, in really hilly regions and really arid regions, and just Texas has such a wide variety of different regions that we call home here, since our state is so big. If you really want a challenging hunt, start hiking up those mountains, start hiking up those hills, and start finding your Aoudad like that, because those are really probably the most challenging hunt we have in Texas of the exotics, next to like the desert bighorn. Okay, and that's a whole nother podcast right there. But that all being said, you've got a lot of opportunities to to find free range outfitters or to find high fence outfitters. All right, high fence is of course a little bit easier, a lot of cases, not always. But high fence is always a better guarantee that you're going to bring something home. And I don't even use the word guarantee that loosely. I'm basically saying that I'm just basically saying that it's something that you have an opportunity to get one behind a high fence a little bit better than you would free range. Now, it's not to say it's just kind of like elk hunting I talk about. You can go to Colorado and spend 7 days to 12 days out in the mountains going to find you an elk, or you can spend a day doing it in Texas and do it under a high fence. All right, to you it may be more sporting to go out there and spend 7 days. I don't have 7 days straight to go hunting with all the obligations that I have. I prefer to go and get my animal, and I'm not saying that it's cheating. I'm not saying that high fences are any less, since a lot of what I do is high fence. Everybody has their own opinion about that, but basically I'm just saying you can get it done a little bit quicker with a high fence hunt, because those animals are more confined, but they're not. The one thing I always watch out for is don't use the word canned hunting. Unless they're tying it to a tree, unless it's tame and eating it out of your hand, it's not a canned hunt. Okay, high fence hunts, all the exotics that I have hanging on my wall right now, including the red stag I'm staring at right now, the ram, the goat, the deer, everything that I've killed under a high fence has been a challenge. Everything. And I don't say that every hunt in a high fence is a challenge, but every hunt for me has been, and it's been rewarding. It's been a rewarding challenge, and it's been a worthwhile challenge. But the two things to look for in any exotic hunt that you book, free range or especially under high fence, guaranteed shot opportunity and spot and stalk hunt. Those are the two things I would look for sure. All right, and you've got, like I said, trophy size on both of the Aoudad and the Axis are going to be between about 28 inches to about 30 inches on up. And you're going to pay more for the bigger horns. Blake Marshall I had on this show a while back. He's a great outfitter, King of Eights Outfitters. You can check his website out. And then I've had him on, and he was talking. I don't know if he talked about this off camera or not off camera, on the podcast, or kind of off the podcast air with me. He talked about a guy wanting a 40-inch axis. Those things are like unicorns, dude. They're just not that well found, because most of the time they're shot between 30 inches on up as trophies, and a lot of times they don't get that big. If they do, they've been fed really well, and their genetics are really good. And it's just like I said, it's finding a needle in a haystack. It's like hunting a unicorn. They're not really that common out there, but don't go to these outfitters and expect that you're going to get a 35-inch axis and not pay $5,000 for it. All right, the bigger the horns, the more rare the species, the more rare of those horns or the antlers in that species, and you're not going to necessarily end up with but choose something that's representative of that animal. It doesn't always have to be the biggest or the best. What I feel like about, I've done this podcast now for going on 4 years. I'm not all about the catching and killing all the time and killing the biggest and the baddest of everything. Basically, I'm about, taking care of, creating the memories outdoors and just having a great mount to remember your hunt by. If you do a shoulder mount or European mount, if you freeze dry the velvet, if you do hardhorn, whatever. Most of the animals that I have around my office here are trophy quality. The stag's not really a trophy, but it's a nice stag. It's a 4x3, and it was a hard hunt. It took me 4 times going back to that ranch to get that stag. So my point is that I'm just saying that expect to pay more for bigger. All right. And let's just get into the crux of everything, addressing this with being a bow hunt. The situation exists there with a bow hunt that it's going to be a closer in-range hunt. So you're going to be looking at 20 yards, 30 yards, maybe 40 yards, depending on whatever you're comfortable shooting. And the axis and the Aoudad are both very wary animals. They're very, very, very on their toes. That's what makes them a challenge to hunt, and they're among the most challenging species to hunt because they have such great senses and such a keen eye to figuring that out. And the title of this show is Aoudad and Axis Hunting the Toughest of Exotics with Bow and Crossbow. So you guys know, if you've watched any of my videos or seen any of my, listened to any of these podcasts, I like a Barnett crossbow. The other one that has been a close contender to that has been, and this is just what I've shot for years, guys. Barnett's just been my crossbow of choice for years, and I'm not saying they're the only or the best or whatever. There's Excalibur. They make a fine recurve crossbow, fantastic. There are a lot of places you can get Excalibur. They also have this new center point, which is a new word. It's a new word in the market. They make an awesome budget crossbow for less than $300 in some cases. You can get a crossbow that is more than adequate for anything that you shoot in Texas and beyond. You've got Raven, which makes the highest end crossbows out there, next to the Excaliburs and some of the higher end ones price wise. The size that they're making these things are so compact but so powerful. I mean, just lethal fast and just crazy, wicked fast. And so anyway, speaking of wicked, there's 10 point, Wicked Ridge 10 point. There's just so many great crossbows out there. The nice thing about buying American brands is that you're probably not going to run into a lot of junk anymore. It just doesn't exist like that anymore. Basically the main thing to watch out for is just a lot of this, unbranded garbage that's out there and stuff that comes from overseas. Not all of it's bad, but not all of it's good either. So just stick with your main brands, especially for bows and compound bows, crossbows and compound bows, and you'll be in good shape. I'm considering getting a Bowtech here pretty soon. My Martin has been a fine compound bow. I've killed a lot of deer and hogs with it and exotics, and I've also shot a lot of 3D tournaments with it, but it's just getting long on the tooth. It's getting old. It was a 2004 model, and it's worked well for years, but I'm just looking for something else. I'm looking at buying a Bowtech. Everybody has their favorite brands. I know the guy I shoot 3D with, Scott Washburn, he loves his Matthews, all right? My bow fishing guide, Marty McIntyre, he loves his PSE, all right? He's a pro staff shooter with PSE on the bow fishing side. All these guys have got all kinds of different products. The nice thing about it is there's so many different good ones out there. And the nice thing is they compete fiercely with each other at ATA every year at the Archery Trade Association show. And they're constantly coming out with new innovative things that are good for us as archers. So the people that benefit from that are guys like me in the media and you as a consumer and a listener, because you get the best of all the worlds and all the competition and stuff. From that emerges the best of the best of the best of the stuff, all right? And then obviously y'all know, if you've listened to me before, I will say this again, but Grim Reaper is my broadhead of choice. I have shot Grim Reaper for 9 years now. And I learned that from Jake Davis, who is with another exotic outfit that I work with indirectly. And Jake's a good buddy. Him and I talk every once in a while. And Jake taught me about Grim Reaper in 2009, I think, when I first started shooting crossbows. And I was hunting an area, and I was using other broadheads, and I was losing deer. I was just losing deer. And basically, he got me into shooting an 1.5-inch cut radius out of a crossbow. And then a 2-inch cut radius, which I was kind of manufacturing my own cut radius back then, my own expander cups and everything, and doing my own thing. And basically I was getting 1.75 to 2-inch cut radius out of a crossbow head and out of an older Barnett Wildcat C5 crossbow. And man, I started smoking them, man. Just every time I'd shoot one, it would fall over dead. And I'd be able to find it and see where it dropped right away. And after getting that kind of success with that kind of broadhead, now I know a lot of you guys like Rage, and a lot of you guys like all the different Muzzies and all those different ones. They're all great. I'm just telling you what works for me, all right? And it might work for you. But the Grim Reaper, if you've never tried them, they're a great crossbow to try. Crossbow broadhead to try, or compound broadhead to try. I shoot the Whitetail Specials, which are 2-inch cut radius, 3-blade mechanicals, and then I shoot for compound, and then I shoot the 1.5-inch crossbow heads, which they just redid this year for crossbow. And I've really had a great opportunity, great experiences with Grim Reaper. And like I say, I've yet to lose, and I cross my fingers and knock on wood, anything that I have hit within the vitals, even if it was a marginal shot, I've recovered with Grim Reaper. And I've killed dozens of animals, guys. With time and time again, they've worked for me. So I'm not saying any broadhead's perfect. But you can make angle shots with Grim Reapers. You can do a lot of things you can't with some other broadheads. But I'm not opposed to your other ones that are out there, your Muzzies and Spitfires and all that other stuff. I'm just telling you what works well for me. On arrow side and bolts for crossbow and compound bow, respectively, I am a fan of Gold Tip. I know a lot of you guys like Black Eagle and Easton, all those other brands. That's great. Gold Tip is just the brand that I use, and I use the Ballistic 425 for crossbow, and then the old Pro Hunter for compound bow, and that's just kind of what my mileage varies on that. That's just, your mileage may vary on whatever brand you prefer, but I'm just telling you what I like to shoot, and that's been kind of a tried and true proven thing for me. I also use the Gold Tip Pro Hunter arrows for my 3D archery. And I do that because it's kind of a good mix of a arrow to shoot. They're tough as nails, man. They're just really great opportunity to get out there. And I just got some new arrows cut the other day from Double G Archery, which is here in Central Texas. Double G is out off 29 and State Highway 130, Toll Road 130 and Highway 29, and they've just got some great opportunities to connect with new bows and broadheads and bow hunting accessory, arrows, all that stuff. So Double G Archery out there. They're not sponsoring the show, but I'm at least plugging them. That's one of the places I go next to Archery Country in Austin to get my bow worked on, or to get some range time, or I even have my little backyard range. If you've seen in my YouTube videos, I do my own little backyard range here and have a lot of fun. So those are the mechanics of what I do for bow hunting, okay? Bow hunting obviously is a challenging sport for whitetail. It's even more of a challenge in a lot of cases for axis, because they've seen it all, and they're very educated animals. And I'm not saying that an axis is smarter than a whitetail, In some cases, you could say that they are. It just depends on their experience and if they've ever seen a fence and those kind of things. How wild they are, how tame they are, that kind of stuff. That all matters. Same deal with Aoudad. But there's some great opportunities, guys, to get out there and just hunt some things here in the off season that we are in right now. Turkey season is right around the corner, right at the end of this month, and this podcast is airing. Turkey season starts, and I've got a sweetheart of the turkey spot this year. I'm really excited about that. But this is just a great opportunity to get outdoors and do some off season hunting. There is no season for axis. There is no season for Aoudad. There is no season for any of the Texas exotics. Buffalo, elk, all right? And bison is what I mean, buffalo. And the April article I have is called Buffalo, No, Not a Bison, Not Even Tasty Like a Bison, But They Get Huge. So that's my buffalo fish for the bow fishing articles. So stay tuned for Texas Fishing Game Magazine, fishgame.com. That is coming out in the April issue, and that's going to be a fun article to read. I promise you, it's going to be packed full of good information. All right. The other thing is that, you shouldn't pay too much. Shop around, get a good deal. Talk to an outfitter about what the hunt is expected of you. If you're going out to West Texas, Aoudad hunting free range, you better be in good shape. If not, you better be hitting the gym like I do to try to get in the optimal health and optimal shape to take something like that on. That is the hardest hunt I think you'll find in Texas. Now, you can also hunt axis free range. All right, there's plenty of places that have them. Now, for those of you guys that are outside of Texas and don't understand this, another thing to consider is the fact that axis basically have a home range. They basically think they're more of a herder animal, so they act more like an elk than they do a whitetail. All right, so that's just something to know about them. And then Aoudad run in big groups, or they can run in small groups, and they typically prefer to run in bigger groups. But the main thing I wanted to bring home here is that you can't just show up in Texas and start hunting them all over the place, because we have 98% or so private land here, all right? And they're not making any more land, as the old real estate saying goes. So you're going to have to find an outfitter or a guide or a ranch or a hunting place, that has these animals on there to find them, unless you're hunting public land. And I've had my buddies Trevor Bryan and Jeremy Beeston on talking about public land hunts, special draws. They've got a Cast Blast Grill Chill podcast, fantastic podcast about public land hunting and just doing it their way. It's a big storytelling podcast. They tell all kinds of stories about the good, bad, and the ugly of public land hunting. I highly recommend that. But there's special draws that they do for all these different hunts in New Mexico and Texas and elsewhere. New Mexico, they have Aoudad and oryx and that kind of stuff. And then here they have they've got a wide variety of different things as well. So, but one of the easiest things you can do, though, like I said, guys, is hire an outfitter or a guide or go to a hunting ranch and just have a good time out there, man. Just have a blast. Have a ball hunting these things. They're a hard animal to hunt, especially with crossbow or compound bow equipment. They're not going to be an easy animal to take, but that's the whole reason why a lot of us hunt. We love the challenge, all right? I thrive on challenge, guys. I live for challenge, and I do that because I believe that we grow stronger in our ability because of our challenges. All right. It's kind of like the old saying, and I'm not going to get too inspirational on here, but why you should not help a butterfly get out of the cocoon, because it needs to get the blood moving to its wings as it struggles to get out of the cocoon. If you help it, it's not going to be able to fly away. It might die. That's the thing about hunting that is a challenge, and I'm not saying you should challenge yourself to go out on a big expedition that's 14 days long and kind of like a desert bighorn or anything like that. But I mean, if you're up for the challenge, these animals will give you a heck of a challenge. I mean, these guys will give you a good grind to get out there and hustle, and basically, when the animal is the prize, and take that shot or release that trigger, release that arrow, release that bullet. I'm sorry, it's getting late. Release that bullet or release that arrow or whatever the case may be from your gun or your bow, and take home some great meat. So here's the other thing I was going to tell you guys about. Axis is so tasty. You don't have to worry about jerky tasting gamey. You don't have to worry about your chicken fried backstrap tasting wild at all. It's very tame meat as far as not gamey tasting and that kind of stuff. It's very, very mild meat in that regard. It will, some jokes go around, and I said this on the Cast Blast Grill Chill podcast. Some people will say it'll make you throw all your whitetail away, but I love me some whitetail deer. I strive to kill a couple of them every year, just so we can put them in the freezer and eat them. My wife and I have got steak down to a science. We do New York strips for beef, and then we do backstrap medallions for deer. And I'm going to get me an axis doe here pretty soon. And we'll be doing some backstrap medallions with that. But just a fantastic table fare, guys. And now, Aoudad, I've not tried myself. All right, I plan to probably kill you this year. Chester Moore and I are going to go look at booking a hunt together somewhere in a few weeks and see if we can't get something together. Maybe a hog and a Aoudad, or maybe me get an axis doe and an Aoudad ewe or something like that. But anyway, they're relatively inexpensive hunts, especially if you're looking for a doe or a ewe. If you're looking for some meat for the freezer in the off season, if you did not kill a fantastic, whitetail, and a lot of them this year at the lease or at your hunting excursion or, your family ranch or wherever you're hunting. There's some great opportunities here to plug in and get some meat for the freezer and a great outdoor memory, a great hunt, a great, fantastic memory, fantastic meat yield. And Aoudad tastes a lot different than, not really a lot different, but a lot tamer than your regular sheep. Since they're from a different part of the world, they don't taste just like your garden variety I guess I could say mouflon. I've got a picture of mouflon I'm looking at right now. Mouflon or Texas Dollar, Black Hawaiian, Corsican, Barbado, whatever the case may be, a common sheep. Those, now I typically say this when it comes to meat. Axis, you can eat the whole thing. You chicken fry the whole thing, all right? Aoudad, if you're not a fan of mutton at all, which is what sheep meat is, Aoudad's a little bit better from what I understand. Thompson Temple said this years ago that he likes the taste of Aoudad. You can always get an Aoudad made into sausage if you don't like the taste of sheep. You can always get we had one dude the other day came in to the hunting ranch processing and taxidermy store that I work with too. I do their marketing, and he wanted his entire ram, like Texas doll ram, made into jerky. All right, he just wants the whole thing made into jerky. And I tasted a piece of the jerky that was made off of another ram that we had before. I tried to make jerky myself off of a ram one time, and I still remember the taste, okay? It was wild. It was gamey. It had, greasy too. It was oily and everything. I tried a piece of this jerky, which they tried it. They did another ram that they had shot at the ranch, and basically did the whole thing into jerky just to kind of see how it would taste. And it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. If it's seasoned right, if it's smoked right, if it's treated right and everything, it can taste good. But Aoudad can make good sausage for breakfast sausage, pan sausage, link sausage, anything like that. You can hardly even tell that it's Aoudad, or that it's sheep. So I speak from what I've heard, and I speak from experience when it comes to the common sheep, such as the Barbado, the Texas Doll, the Mouflon, the Corsican, any of those, the Black Hawaiian, any of those sheep which have more of a gamey, wild taste to them, can be made into sausage, delicious sausage. You won't even taste the mutton or any kind of sheep flavor at all if they're seasoned right. Breakfast sausage, link sausage, pan sausage, whatever you want to do. Any kind of sausage like that, ground up with the spices and everything and the cure and everything, will not have much of a sheep taste. I can guarantee you that. And then Aoudad, I hear, is even more mild than that, so you may be able to take some more liberties with that meat and not worry so much about that being a big deal to your palate. And that's a nice thing here. Like I say, average Aoudad $350. Average Axis doe, we're looking at $450, $400, something like that. Generally inexpensive to hunt in the off season. Great way to fill up your freezer. Great challenging hunt to have. It just a really, really fun time to get out in the outdoors and share the good news of the Texas Outdoor Nation and beyond, and just so much. This is God's creation, Sure, God did not put axes in Texas. Man did, all right? Sure, God did not put Aoudad in Texas, but they have adapted real well to our climate. They've adapted real well to our circumstances and everything that we have for food and everything that wild eat. And I wrote about in an article that I did for Norm Ammunition. This is in one of the exotic articles that I wrote about called the Tex African Safari. And that was a program we did back in November, I think it was. I think it was in November, December for Norm Ammunition. And basically, I just made the point of this. I basically said, look, if you have a situation of somebody complaining that an axis, because I get this all the time, that axes are going to displace whitetail and they're bad for the whitetail population and they're an invasive species and they push out. I've even heard of people shooting axes and letting them lay, which I think is a cardinal sin, because they're so tired of seeing them because they're displacing whitetail. They reproduce faster, they reproduce more than a whitetail does. And here's the thing. I said in that article that I wrote, I was like, look, the thing is, you don't, complain about an axis. You can complain about a feral hog all day because they do a lot more destruction than an axis would, but by and large. But basically, you don't complain about how tasty an axis meat is, or how beautiful a black buck mount is, or how stoic an Aoudad set of horns is on a Euro plaque on your wall. They're exotics, but they're tasty exotics. Okay, they're exotics, but they're beneficial exotics to fill up your freezer and to have another trophy on your wall. I mean, I don't see them going anywhere. I think they're here to stay. I think all the exotics we have in Texas, that's one thing that makes Texas such a heritage of a state. I know some of you guys listen to this don't like high fences. I know some of you guys listen to this only want low fence hunting and don't want, but the thing is, something's got to keep these exotics in. Without high fences, we wouldn't have the exotic population we do now. People, they'd be running rampant all over the place, and it would just be crazy without that. So I just invite you to think about that not necessarily to be opposed to high fences, but just to be open-minded if you're against them. And because without them, we wouldn't have the exotic population we do in Texas. And this is the best state for hunting out of any of them that I know of. And I'm not saying that your state, if you listen to this in Vermont, which I know we have some folks that listen to, this in Connecticut or else, I'm trying to remember where. I think West Virginia was one of the places that we get a lot of downloads from. But I don't want you to think that we don't care. It's just that we have such native and a rich landscape of exotics that it's so much more beneficial, the fact that we have all this hunting opportunity. All right, and that's really what it is, an opportunity. It's not necessarily a lockdown, only the elite can come hunt. And that's the reason why I brought this up on this show. And Chester gave me this idea. Chester Moore, editor-in-chief, who's been on the show many times, gave me the idea to do this show on axis and Aoudad because they're the toughest animals to hunt with a crossbow or a bow. And, the reason why he gave me this for me to do is because it's something that's here to stay, and it's something that is, very controversial in some cases, but very, very much part of the Texas Outdoor Nation, because we have such an ample supply of them to hunt here. You're never going to run these out of population, most likely. The way they reproduce, you won't. But it's a challenge. It's a great outdoor memory to share with your family. It's a great off-season hunting opportunity if you're not shooting 3D clubs like Hill Country Bow Hunters and the Fun Shoot coming up. If you're not shooting other situations at whatever the case may be. I mean, if you're not hunting deer, if you're not hunting hogs, if you're not hunting turkey, go hunt you an Aoudad or an axis. I mean, there's just a lot of different opportunity here to be able to do something like this. And I honor the opportunity that we have in Texas to hunt. I kind of got on my soapbox a little bit today with other ranches and what other ranches are doing, the ones that I don't work with. But I can tell you that the ranches that I do work with are high quality, that, if you come to me for a recommendation, I'm not going to steer you wrong. I'm going to make sure you have a good opportunity and a good situation, or as best situation as I can control out there. And I'm just saying, in summary here, to just ask lots of good questions and make good choices when it comes to the places you go hunt, because there's a lot of good outfitters out there. There's a lot of people that want to take care of you and want to care about your hunting success. There are a lot of them that just want to take your money. All right. There's more of them that want to take care of you and love on you than people that want to take your money. All right. So it's not all, it's not like Shysterville where you got to watch over, everybody that's going to be a shyster, but it's basically just a fact of the matter that you want to just make sure you ask a lot of good questions. Like I say, I'll have the podcast that I did on the subject of outfitters and guides and questions to ask, in the show notes, and then I'll also put the link to the article so you can read that. But there's just some things for you to think about. That's all. Some good considerations to make. So back to the end of the show. Here we are. Gonna give you a couple of summary points here. Aoudad and Axis, lots of places you can go around Texas, West Texas, East Texas. Obviously, Central Texas, there's a lot because I deal with them a lot here. South Texas, there's a lot of high fence ranches that have exotics. West Texas, East Texas, somewhat, but it just depends on where you go in East Texas. In North Texas, just an ample variety of places to go. Even up into Oklahoma, there's a lot of high fence ranches that are getting started up there. I've helped at least consult with some of them as far as stocking goes. I've got a guy that contacted me in Nebraska, heck of a guy. They do big horn sheep hunts up there, believe it or not, in the snow. And they're trying to start a free-ranging a high fence population of Sika up there, and one of the 3 ranches that have high fences that stock exotics in Nebraska. It's kind of cool. So anyway, a lot of opportunities all over Texas, all over the nation for exotics. And like Ted Nugent says all the time, you can't do this stuff in France. So enjoy, and I just invite you to relish and really appreciate the opportunities, the freedoms that we have for our guns here, for our for our exotics, for all the different animals that we have here, for all the different opportunities that we have here to hunt year round, for all kinds of meat yielding things, okay? And just a great opportunity. And I've never done a solo podcast for this long. I had a lot on my mind today, guys, so I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And if you've made it this far, you're the best, man. I appreciate you guys listening, and whatever you're doing, if you're at the gym or walking the dog or stopping and starting this thing over and over again. I'm sorry I went a little bit longer. I've just had a lot on my mind. It's past midnight here when I'm recording this, but by goodness, I had a lot on my mind, and I love this subject. I love to talk compound and crossbows, recurve bows, whatever you like to shoot, longbows, self bows. I'd love to talk about AccuSharp and the knife sharpeners and the gear that I use. I'd love to talk about Axis and Aoudad and other game that you can hunt year-round. And like I say, I deal in this stuff every day. I'm always doing a deal of some kind with some kind of exotic somewhere in Texas. Chester Moore gets a kick out of it. He always says, how many spotted belly oxes have you sold lately, Dustin? So he's always having fun with me there. I just love this stuff, guys. I love doing this. I love bringing the show to you. If you've not done so already, I talked about this at the beginning of the show, but I can't even remember what I talked about in the beginning and the end here. Please subscribe to our newsletters. They are free. They come to you every 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You have the Texas State of the Outdoor Nation on Thursday, the Wildlife Wednesday on Wednesday, and then the Tuesday Texas Tactical and Practical Texas Fishing Game newsletter. And you can subscribe to those at fishgame.com. Check out our blog. You can check me out. I'm one of the contributors there. Just go to contributors and then one of the tabs for the blog, and you'll see my name, Dustin Von Warncke, there. Click on that. You can see all the podcasts that I do, as well as all of the awesome articles that are on there as well from me and other authors. So I'm not saying I'm an awesome author, but I've got a lot of different subjects that I cover there. A lot of gear reviews I've been doing lately. I'm going to call my YouTube channel the Knife and Flashlight Review Channel, I think, because that's how I do a lot of reviews of that kind of stuff. Right now I've got a mini shovel that I'm reviewing. Yay, that'll be cool. So check out my YouTube channel. If you want to check out all things Dustin and everything that I've got going on as far as articles I've written, podcasts that I've done, that kind of stuff, check me out at dustinsprojects.com. Check out Texas Fishing Game at fishgame.com. And don't forget to subscribe to those newsletters. You'll get a new podcast every other Thursday rather, but every Thursday you'll have the podcast from the last week in there. If it's not a new one, you'll get the previous one, so you can check those out. And these shows are around 35 minutes to an hour, maybe a little bit longer tonight. But basically, that's just the way I like to roll, and there's just a lot of opportunities I have there. So, if you've not done so already, just a reminder to check out the Hill Country Bowhunters 3D Archery Shoot. The 3D Archery season is here again, and they've got the fun shoot March 23rd and 24th. Walk-up registration 8 to 1, and that is in Liberty Hill, Texas, here in Central Texas, just north of where I live. So thank you guys so much for watching, reading, and listening. Have an awesome day in the outdoors. We'll see you next time.